So here we are at the shrine of Angkor Wat in Siem Reap in central and very hot Cambodia. This magnificent, majestic and intriguing shrine behind us, created in the 12th century by King Shirley Curly. I hope I've got that right. And then pretty much abandoned from the 13th century onwards and captured by the forest, really. This whole place became overgrown and probably only known to locals. It wasn't until the 1850s that a French biologist rediscovered the temple, and then the process began of clawing back the forest and restoring this shrine to something of its former glory. And it really is glorious. I've been to synagogues, cathedrals, mosques, Aboriginal caves, some amazing sites around the world, but I'd count this as one of the more extraordinary ones. And I think the millions of other people who are here today as well do. It's hard not to be absolutely fascinated by the sheer size of this thing and its unique features and the engineering feat that it represents, given the time in which it was built. It's also hard not to be impressed by the sentiment, the holy religious sentiment to which it so extravagantly gives expression, even if you're not of a particular religious disposition. Shirley and I were in the Lake District in England a couple of years ago, and we went to the Ruskin Museum. And Ruskin was a writer and philosopher and artist, and he said something that really impressed me. He said, when we build, we should think we build forever. And I keep thinking about Ruskin as I'm wondering about this enormous shrine, which is the size of the Vatican, that those who built the thing really intended it to last forever. And even though nature claimed it for 1,000 years, here it is. We can't really be sure, or I can't, of precisely what informed the creation of this thing. About the only thing you can be certain of, though, is that the gods to whom the people of this place built this shrine, that God really mattered to them. You wouldn't bother with the effort that it takes to make this thing if it didn't. I'm also really struck by the practical engineering aspects of this thing. The way it's built as an almost perfect rectangle with rectangles within rectangles, layer of shrine, each layer slightly higher than the one before it. The moat around the outside of the shrine, full of crocodiles, and the aesthetic aspects of this shrine. How it inspires religious feelings, how it's sort of built, you can tell, to create meditative thought. And certainly as you walk around the shrine, it reminds you almost constantly that this is a place of worship, of holy intent. And to the extent that it completely dwarfs you, I think it's meant also to remind you that God, in whatever form he takes, is great and immense. And yet to me, it's actually not God who comes away looking great from a place like this. I think it's human beings who are great. Look what they've done. Look at how they've built this thing with so relatively little technology and engineering knowledge, and yet 1,000 years later it still stands. It's human beings I find myself exalting in a place like this. Sometimes there's shrines to battles that are long forgotten and no longer part of the culture. But it also reminds me of this place that whilst time is everlasting and humans are small, the time that you live in really matters. So to us it's funny that they went to such an effort and are largely forgotten, aside from the monument, but the time mattered to them just as our time matters to us. And it's sort of one last delicious irony of this place, that a place that was built so long ago, that was built so far in the past, actually prompts me to think constantly about the future and about what it is that our time and we will build and whether or not it will last forever. That to me is one of the really satisfying things about coming to a place like this, Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia.